You are a champion. Get up off that bed and believe in yourself. Go back over to the stadium because you are a champion and you have that self-worth. Get over there. And I did. I ran back over, watched the rest of that, and then the rest of that year, nobody beat me.
Rod Dixon. So I'm going to do a little introduction and then we'll kick off. So very pleased that Rod could make it. He was in the 1984 Olympics in the marathon, actually. I think he got 10th. So incredible person. You know, he was, when we're looking through the line of speakers, he was obviously one of the first people on there. Interesting. I'm actually a runner myself. I done the New York City Marathon 6 times, but not as fast as you, Rod. So, but I actually had this book as a kid. This is, and it's called Kiwis Can Fly. John Walker, Rod Dixon. And it's a phenomenal book. Actually, I've got it in the car. I was trying to find it before there. But it's a story, one of the stories about how, with the 1975 breaking of the world record. So this is when John Walker, first man to go under 350 for the mile, and that's Rod. So Rod was one of the first people to congratulate John Walker, and just such an amazing friendship. I think this book really has that. So in terms of Kiwis Can Fly, there's a book, and so it's very fitting that Rod is here. So in terms of, I think Rod is just such an incredible person, and he's so humble, but his running statistics are like no others, and the breadth of them. This is Rod winning his Olympic medal. 3:33 is his personal best for 1,500 meters, which was top 5, I think, in the world when you did that. The world record was broken in that race in 1974. So he won that. This is that race in 1974. Kip Keino actually, if you watch the 1974 in Christchurch, front runner that beat John Walker, but Rod ran 3:33, which was world class at the time. And I think when you look at Rod's history, the depth of how fast he was, if you look at, he had the steeplechase record, 7:37? 8:29. He had the half marathon record at 62 minutes. Everybody's run a half marathon. It's 62 minutes for a half marathon. The New Zealand record for the marathon at 2:08. Which stood for a long time, and he was broken a year ago, Rod, I think. So this was accommodated in winning the New York Marathon. This is the pinnacle race. I've run it 6 times. There is about 2 million people watch it, and there's no atmosphere like it. To win this race is like an Olympic medal. So it's a really story to look at the YouTube footage of this. That's only half the story of Rod Dixon. Rod really gives back, and he started kids charity, which he'll talk about. And I've put some of these photos on because Rod's also helped me with preparing these slides. But he's just a heart of gold, and he talk a bit about what the kids stuff he does, meaningful, getting kids moving. And his position, this is what we need to do. And you're really leading by example, Rod, and really giving back to the community and their need. Rod's obviously got a 501c3. You can purchase these beautiful prints on his website. They're $175. They go there. You can always talk to Rod or just email him at the website, and he'll send you out one. And they're all documented, and that goes to help him do what he does best. So we're just going to play a little clip, and then we'll get Rod.
Rod Dixon was once a household name, one of our mustachioed, world-conquering track athletes from the 70s and 80s. Now 68 and living in California, he's devoted the last couple of decades to getting children moving, getting them running to invigorate their bodies and minds and improve their health and wellness.
One of his pet projects is a progressive running program, KiDSMARATHON, which is now in schools across the US as well as Ireland, the Philippines, and of course here in Aotearoa. Michael Holland found him spreading his infectious enthusiasm near Pukekoi.
Just minutes out from the start of final limbering up, and down the back, an interloper joins the fray.
Do you know how big your smile is?
Well, kids make me smile. They have me smiling all the time.
Go get him. Go get him. Go get him.
Rod Dixon, our boy from Nelson, who grabbed bronze in the 1500 metres at the 72 Munich Olympics and a decade later won the New York Marathon, now finding an even greater sense of achievement in schoolyard settings like this.
We've got to keep them moving. We've got to keep them enthusiastic. Exercise and movement opens them up.
And at tiny Mulcool School just south of Auckland, they're headed for the finish line of Dixon's Kids Marathon program, where at the rate of 1 kilometre a day, they've closed in on the 42.2 kilometres that make a marathon.
It becomes part of their daily routines, and it's fun.
Just 5Ks to go, all at once, as part of a family fun run.
Just remember, it's slow and steady. The tortoise, slow and steady, wins the race. Kids are kids. They were born to move, and they love it, and they respond to it. I think there's a pride, P-R-I-D-E, personal responsibility for individual daily effort. Come on, 56, looking good, girl. You going to get some water? They know they're doing a good job, and we've got to encourage them just to keep at it. Good job, dude. Good job. Woo-hoo. Can I run with you for a wee while? Yeah. I just wanted just a little jog with you. Come on, come on. In 1960, Sir Edmund Hillary came to my school in Nelson, and he told us kids that Mount Everest isn't high enough for your goals, dreams, and aspirations. 12 years later, I'm at the Olympic Games winning a medal. In 1973, I went round and knocked on the door, and I said, well, sir, you came to my school, you inspired me, and now I've got this medal. He looked at it, he said, will you promise me one thing? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, will you inspire the next generation? Are you feeling good? Come on. Get a girl. Oh, you're beating me. Oh, slow down, slow down.
You're hyping yourself up. You're not really this excited, are you?
Yeah, I love it. Go number 5. Here's my girl. I got water for you. Yoo-hoo. Go number 2. Good girl. I'm chuffed. I love the word chuffed. They give me a high five because they've done something. That gives me a big buzz because I remember the kid in me. In fact, he's still here. They are winners. They finished. Finishing is winning. Winning is finishing.
That said, could there be a more beguiling image to marry those words than wide-eyed, proud little number 2?
Oh.
Let's give a big applause to Mr. Rod Dixon.
Wow. Thanks, Rod. Well, Morris, you're a hard act to follow, mate. And, well, there it is. It's kind of in a nutshell. Great to be here. Great to see the Kiwi leadership, the Kiwis can fly, everything about Kiwi. And, well, where do we go? Well, we talked a little bit about Sir Edmund Hillary coming to my school, Tahunanui School in Nelson. And I was 10 years old, and he came, and, of course, we thought that was amazing. The photograph of him with us kids was in the newspaper and was on our refrigerator for about 10 years. And I think that inspiration got me going. But also, too, the running club and the community and just the love of running. I remember people say, what is your best performance ever? And I said, probably the sack race at the Sunday school picnics. I said, I won that. And so it was just about just moving, kids moving. And going on to the Olympics, of course, 72. And as I said, I remember the media said after I was ranked 42nd in the world, and when they, and I finished with a bronze medal, and they said, the media said, you know, who inspired you? Who is your hero? No, my hero was my brother, because he was 4 years older, and whatever he said I could do, I believed, so I would do that. But the inspiration really came from Sir Edmund Hillary, and those of you who grew up with this, we were all inspired by him. He was our hero. He was our mantra. And they said, well, you know, have you told him this? And I said, well, you don't call the Queen, and you don't call Sir Edmund. I mean, but you know his name, Edmund Hillary, Edmund Percival, 282A Remuera Road, Auckland, with the telephone number. So next time I'm in Auckland, I go around and knock on the door. I wasn't going to call. And Lady Hillary came to the door, and she said, just a minute. And he came out, and I said to him, this was my journey. And he was looking at me sort of, yeah. So I thought, right. So I just happened to have this in my pocket. I gave it to him, and he held it, and he said, "This is very fine, young Rodney. Will you promise me one thing?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Will you inspire the next generation?" And I said, "Yes." He gave me the medal back and closed the door. So, what do I do now? But, of course, wonderfully, my mother said, "That's okay, it'll come to you. So go on and do what you got to do, but it'll come to you." So in 1990, when I lived in up in Matheson Bay near Lee, the local school was going to be closed down, and the kids were going to be bused to Warkworth. And we said, no, that's not going to happen. Lockwood Smith was the minister at the time, and it was suggested that I should go to him and get some funding. And I said, he's not going to give me any money. He's already closing the school down. I said, we as a community have got to get this thing going. And I said, I believe if we have a family fun run, that'll get us going. And I will go to a 30-mile radius of Lee and get every school kid engaged, because I knew that the kids were going to be doing their training in school. The teachers and the principal will support them. And then on this day, they were going to be knocking on the parents' door at 5 o'clock in the morning. Get your ass out of bed. You're taking me to run my final 2K. And that's when they got their medal. And we started that, and we built another classroom and a swimming pool, and we bought a bus, a little minivan, so that they could go down to Warkworth and beat their butt in rugby and hockey and other sports. So that was the journey with this. And so I continued to figure out, or didn't figure out, but I started to realize that when I came back here to work with the LA Marathon and Boston and New York marathons, that we were not getting our kids. Everybody was talking about the middle school and high school, but it actually started in elementary school. And that's when we've got to get the kids moving. And especially in these low-income inner-city schools, are not the first three things that get cut: art, music, and PE. And so we've got to get that program back into schools and get them funded, and it's working. And I've 15 years, I've got 500,000 kids in this country doing. Los Angeles Unified School District, just on 37,000 kids go through the program every year. Now, obviously, I can't continue to fund that, so a lot of the people like the LA Marathon fund it, and other people in the communities. But what I have done in Connecticut is got all those schools given the ownership back to the schools, taken away from the school district and given it back to the communities, because I realise, like the farmers market, local food, local people, local customers, get it back to the community where they have an investment in it. And sure enough, we've doubled the numbers. Waterbury, we started off with 50 kids, and now we've got 4,300 kids, and it's called the Mayor O'Leary's Kids Marathon, and he actually closes the city down, and the kids start at Library Park and run around the city. So we know that it's working. My thing now is that I've got to go back to New Zealand and get kids moving, because we know, and Morris, you didn't show some of those numbers, we know type 2 diabetes, obesity, and teen suicide, New Zealand is up in the world level. Obesity is number 4 behind.
I'm not going to show you the bad.
Well, I'm the carrier of that. But we will, because, I just saw Jacinda's 2-minute thing on what she's accomplished in the last 2 years. And she did mention childhood education, but she didn't mention early childhood education. She didn't mention sport, fitness, and nutrition, which I said last year, that's what's got to happen. We've got to have a Prime Minister's Council for sport, fitness, and nutrition. And somebody said to me, what a great idea. Where did you get that idea from? I said, John F. Kennedy, 60 years ago. I said, come on, we've got to do this. So my biggest program really is in Otara with the Polynesian, Pacific Island, Maori populations, and it's working, but I just don't have the funding. But now I'm going to go back and I'm going to make the ask of New Zealanders to step up and let's get our kids moving. So that's kind of my journey after. In fact, after Sir Edmund held this medal, Wherever I went, it was always, it's never ever been in its box again. After Seaman touched that and held that, and I think gave it a blessing. It's always been with me, and after, when I won the New York City Marathon in 1983, I went to the White House to meet President Reagan, and I actually had it in my pocket, and security found it, and they said, "What is this?" And I said, "It's my Olympic medal. I want the president to hold it." And they looked at it and they said, "I think he'll do that." So President Reagan held it. By chance, I was in Nelson, and the Dalai Lama was at a yoga center, and I got him to hold it. It's had Joe Montana, Magic Johnson. It's had thousands of, well, hundreds of wonderful, wonderful superstars. And Chris Lewis, I'm going to get you to hold it. And Morris, I'll let you hold it. But more importantly, over 130,000 kids have touched this. And what I do is when I go to the school, and I'm going to do it here, send it off around the room. You take out what energy you want, but make sure you put some of yours back in. Xavier, you start it going. I think, so the journey that I had as an athlete, really, I started off as an 800-meter runner. And then I progressed through to the 1500, the Olympics. And then I had that young guy, John Walker, who we took. In fact, it was interesting because in 1973, I said to John, I said, "You should come with us to Europe." I said, "You're going to be good. You're going to be good one day. But you're not allowed to beat me, but you'll be good one day." And so he came with us, and I saw what was happening with John. John said to me, he said, "Can you get me tickets? Can you get me the airfares?" And I said, "You got a car?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "We'll sell it. That'll buy you a ticket. Then if you're going to be good, and you're good, you're going to pick up some funding," which was all under the table in those days. "But you should, if you win all your races, John, you'll be able to come back and buy a better car." So John was then hooked on this. We went to Europe, and I saw very, very quickly how talented that kid was. He was like, during the day, he would sort of mope around and complain, but when he got on the track, it was poetry, absolutely. What a fantastic relationship I had with him all those years on the track, and my great mate Dick Quacks, who we lost last year. It was just an amazing, and we were the Kiwis that could fly. We went to Europe and Scandinavian. People knew us more than they knew the All Blacks. Great Britain was different, but certainly in Scandinavia and Europe, and we were very, very proud of our heritage, which went back to Jack Lovelock in 1936, winning the Olympics in Berlin, and of course the great Peter Snell, Murray Hilberg, Bill Bailey, Barry McGee. I mean, when you think about what they did in 1960, Snell winning the 800, Hilberg winning the 5,000 metres, Barry McGee getting a bronze in the marathon, and our Australian mate Herb Elliott winning the 1,500, the world suddenly thought, what is going on down there? And it was all through Arthur Lydiard and Percy Cerruti, who created that program of understanding that aerobic training. You don't have to run fast all the time. Slow and steady wins the race. And that's where I kind of started working with the kids and getting them to slow down. Don't make it first, second, and third. Just finishing is winning, winning is finishing. And then one of the kids came up to me one day and said, "That's like the tortoise, isn't it?" And I go, "Wow, that's exactly right." So the motive, or as we said on the video, the tortoise is the kids. And now the kids, of course, are asking me can the tortoise do other things than run? And I said, whoa, the tortoise can actually do cross country. The tortoise can play hockey, can play basketball, can do all these other things, and pole vaulting. And they said, "Is he a ninja?" And I said, "She is a ninja." So now I've got to get my artist to do a tortoise doing monkey bars. But it's the kids are driving this. They are the ones who are enthusiastic about it. And I'm getting kids now when I go to, I'm on the Mayor's Council for 2028 Youth Development. And kids are coming up to me and they go, "Hey, Rod Dixon." And I go, "Do I know you?" And, he's like, he said, I said, who are you? And he said, oh, I was in your program 7 years ago at elementary school, and now I'm in high school. And by the way, I'm the only kid in my family that is going to finish high school and go into college. And I said, what do you think what inspired you? And he said, you gave me the belief that finishing is winning and winning is finishing. And he said, so I didn't have to be a winner. I could go home with a medal and say, I finished. Slow and steady wins the race. And I think that has been a big factor. And you've got to start them young. It's got to be in kindergarten and get them into that journey of health, wellness, of activity. Sport is good. And nutrition. You've got to get them understanding to eat healthy. And it's changing, but it's a long journey. I think the key to what I did is, as I mentioned about John Walker, is that I realised that John Walker after 1974, and he's the 1974 1500 metres in Christchurch Commonwealth Games, and here I am running the race of my life, and I finished fourth. You get a gold, silver, bronze, and for fourth you get a chocolate teddy bear probably. You don't get any. It's very tough. And I was less than half a second behind the winners. And I'm looking at the scoreboard and I'm going, hold on. The first two have broken the world record. The third guy's equaled the world record. I've just run the fifth fastest time in history and finished fourth in the race. And I thought, I think it's time for me to move to 5,000 metres. And so that journey took me through to the Olympics in 1976. I was ranked number one in the world at 5,000. And going into the Olympics, nobody had beaten me. And then once again at the Olympics, I was less than a second behind the winner, finishing fourth again. And I don't ever forget, there's four of us. They had to look at the photo, and they had the four of us standing there, and they looked at the Vereen, the Finn, and they said, you come over here. And they looked at Quacks, and they said, you come over here. And then they looked at Hildebrand, the German, and you come over here. And they looked at me and says, bye-bye. And so I ran from there over to the village, all the way up to my room, and burst out and cried. I had tears on I didn't know, my life, my world had just suddenly stopped. And I just couldn't get over it. And then I heard that little voice in my head where my mother had said to me, you are a champion, get up off that bed and believe in yourself, go back over to the stadium because you are a champion and you have that self-worth, get over it. And I did. I ran back over, watched the rest of that, and then the rest of that year, nobody beat me. And I got over that, kind of, because 77, I went on to Europe, and raced again, back to number one, working through 78 to the Commonwealth Games in Edmonton, and I had my shoes stolen right before the start of the race. Devastated, and I always handmade my shoes. In fact, back in the day, Adidas were handmade, we were doing them to exactly what I wanted, and I loved the idea of kangaroo uppers, and my great mate, Graham Crouch, he would bring kangaroo skin to New Zealand, give it to me, and then I would take it to Germany to have the shoes made. And they're amazing. And those shoes were absolutely fabulous. So 78, 79, went back to Europe and was building through to Moscow. And, of course, New Zealand joined the boycott. And I was devastated. In fact, we were in Philadelphia when the announcement through one of the media came to us and said, it's a pity you guys are not going to the Olympics. And I go, we're not? And I looked at Walker and I looked at everybody and go, why aren't we told this? But that was what it was in those days. And of course, I was not very happy with Mr. Muldoon. In fact, I did call him an ass. And I didn't think that was right, that he would interfere with our right to go to the Olympics. Now, I could move on because I was an individual, but what about all those, the swimmers and the gymnasts and our rowers and our team sports who had spent the last 3 years training and suddenly they couldn't go? And I thought that was wrong. I don't know what the US and Russia, but they were training again in wheat within about 6 months. So there was no benefit. In fact, I met Mr. Carter, Jimmy Carter, and he said that one of his regrets was calling on that boycott. So we moved on from that because I moved into road racing, and that's when I figured out I could be good at this. and I started to run more 10Ks and more half marathons. And then the New York City Marathon creator, Fred LeBeau, came to me and he said, I want you to run the New York City Marathon. But London, Chris Brasher, he brought me over to have a look at the course. I looked at several. Boston was not good because from Heartbreak Hill on, it's downhill, and big guys can't handle the downhill running quite so much. So I chose New York. I was very involved with Pan Am in those days, and Saucony, my shoe company, and Pepsi had paid basically they'd given me all these races during the year. So I made up my own shirt with my logos and ran, and as we see, I won the thing. It was, I think when I crossed that finish line, and of course it was a very close race because I didn't catch the lead of Jeff Smith until 26 miles. And it was just what I did know is that was going to be the defining moment of my life. If I got this thing right and did exactly the training and the preparation to get to that point, that was going to change my life. So I think from that point on, I started to realize that I was beginning now to give back to my community, give back to the people that had supported me and helped me. How am I going for time, Xavier? Yeah. So I think, fabulous to be here, fabulous to meet, and I've been meeting some of you when we were having coffee before. I wasn't going to give you a corporate presentation. This is just coming from my heart. It was just random of my running life. My life has been running, and it's still running, and I'm still involved, and there's nothing better than going to schools to work with these kids. And the great thing is the teachers and the principals are telling me that the program that they have now in school. He's up in Barstow now on the way to Las Vegas. He's just an example. One of the teachers that I was working with the LA Marathon, she said, if you ever come through, would you stop at my school, because the kids, this is our 6th year of doing this, and the kids really want to meet. I stopped in. I go to her class, and I said, what, you got about 3 classes in here? She said, no, that's mine. And I said, how many kids you got? She said, 46 in her school, in her class. And what I did notice is that all the kids are here, but along that wall was a workstation where the kids had a little swivel chair and they could do their work. And then when she talked, they could swivel and listen. And I thought, that's how you're going to get them all in the room. And of course, when I start talking, and I should have got you guys up and doing a little jiggle, was that when you start talking, I look for the first kid that fidgets, because that was me in my day. And those kids, when these kids along here were starting to fidget, but they were on their chairs going like this. And I'm watching them. And I knew, and I went over to her and I said, I can't hug you in front of your kids, but I know who those kids are. They're your ADD kids, aren't they? She said, yes. And I said, are any medicated? She said, no. We know that kids are born to move. We know that we have to give them recess. Every 90 minutes, she gets her kids up and sends them once around the school and back again, 4 minutes. And she'll tell you, and the principal will tell you, the kids and the classes that do that, on average, have higher test scores than the kids that sit and keep quiet around. Because, up until about 18 months, you're encouraged to get up and walk and talk. And for the rest of your life, sit down and keep quiet. And then we put them into schools and we get them to sit there for hours on end. No wonder they close down. So we know it's that simple. Just get them moving, and you will get kids who are enthusiastic to come to school and who are enthusiastic to engage. And they become what you people are later in life. So thank you for your time, Xavier, and everybody, thank you so much. Are we going to have some Q&A? Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Murray?
Rod, if you had to name one person... I'm sorry. What do I do? Speak? Oh, this is impressive.
Magic box.
If you had to name one person, who would you say is the most influential person in your life?
Can I name two?
Well,
Okay,
first
my
and
mother, Marion. You know, my mother at 95 years old, when we had her birthday, she came over to me and she held my hand and she said, "You can call me Marion now." I had 4 years of calling her Marion. I would call her every week. "Is that you, Marion? Hello, Marion. How's it going, Marion?" And she said, "Well, okay, 5 is enough." But no, but she was. But Sir Edmund, because after that, when I did the run-up in Lee, and I talked to the media about what Sir Edmund had asked me to do, and that's why we've got all these kids doing this and doing it. And the trust called me up and they said, "You know, you talk about what Sir Edmund asked you to do, but you haven't called him to tell you. Oh, you haven't called him to tell him." And I said, "Well, he never told me I had to call him." And so he said, "Well, he'd like to have morning tea with you." And I went to his home, back to that. Did anybody ever go to his home? Right. Wasn't it powerful?
Right next door to Chris Liddell.
Yeah. And that house that him and his father built, and hand-built, and a lot of it was Kari and Rimu, but it was a very simple home. He lived there 54 years.
Didn't meet any of the building code.
Right? No. Unbelievable. Yeah. It was made like a beehive. But what was amazing is that when you went in there, the power, and because everything in the house was very, very powerful spiritually. You know, he had things given to him from world leaders, and it was just amazing. You'd go around and touch them and go, "Ooh," like Claudia, I said to you about touching things. Whoa, there's a lot of energy in there. And so, but he was my patron for my foundation, and he did amazing things, and I did interviews with him. I still got one of the last interviews we did with him, but a very, very powerful man, and that was something that I continued to, always want to do the best in his name. Yeah. Thanks, Murray. I love it.
Cool. I'm an aspiring Kiwi, so not a Kiwi yet.
Okay.
But I wanted to know what you eat and how you look so amazing at whatever
103.
you are.
Yeah. It's interesting because, when I go and I always say to the kids, about 1972 or 1983, last century, and the kids will go, "Really? Well, how old are you?" And I go, "About 130. And then the kid at the back will go, "No, you're not. I'm looking at Google and you're not. You're only 69. Yeah. I go, "We can't even tell a story now." The kids are onto it, right? So, no, I think you are what you eat. I think we've figured out it's a huge network out there now, but we've got to be more careful. And wonderfully, New Zealand is leading the world with organic and natural foods. We've got to cut back down on our fertiliser on our land and stop polluting some of our rivers. But by and large, we're very, very innovative with our food service people. And I think, you've got to eat clean. I just say, if you can't pronounce the ingredient, don't eat it. If it comes in a packet or a can, be careful, don't. So it's just, I think, and also too, the kids keep me, the kids inspire me and keep me young. And I realise that their simplicity and their honesty and their creativity is just very, very inspiring to me. And that's what and I've got grandkids too who can. Henry's 12 years old and he can do a standing backflip. I couldn't do one on a trampoline. So those kids are amazing. And and I think I'm ready, in my heart, I'm ready to go back to New Zealand and get this program. I don't want any kid left behind. We can do that in New Zealand. It's very hard. I've only got 7 states out of 50, and I've spent 15 years doing it. 500,000 kids, of course, but I know in New Zealand we can put this program through because of our structure of our regional sports trusts, that they deliver straight to the schools. The funding has got to come in. It doesn't need to come from high performance sport because that's totally different. I think the government got to be invested in this and get every kid, no kid left behind, get them health, wellness, nutrition. Just give those basic principles to the kids. Sorry, I'm like a runner, I just keep going on.
So what do you eat
Oh, fish and chips and McDonald's and no. No. Just I try and find out where it's come from. If I go to a restaurant, I always ask where's the fish come from, or where's the said is that lamb you've got, is that New Zealand lamb? Do you know where it comes from? And if they can't tell me, I don't eat it. You know, you got to be able to tell me where it comes from. Yeah.
There must be something wrong in this world, because I'm the exact same age as you, and no one's ever asked what do you eat. In fact, if they did, it was for the reason I don't want to ever taste.
Actually, that day we came across you.
I was chucking in the chicken and chips or something.
Yeah. It was brilliant. But it's just a fabulous journey, and the journey continues, and it's so cool to be here with you all. I can feel energy. Chris Lewis over there, of course, 1983, right, Chris? When he won, and Lorraine Downs. In fact, I've got to tell you, I had we did a fun run with the consul in Palm Springs. We were doing a film festival, and Lorraine was meant to be on in the car with me. We were doing a parade, and she couldn't make the flight, and so they just put somebody else, and they go, "Oh, she doesn't look very good, does she?" I don't know who she was. She was a stand-in. But so lots of things happening, fabulous, and the journey with some of our great coaches in New Zealand, the athletes, and going home to go back into the mountains and the trails, and it's just exciting. I have a very close relationship with Alison Rowe, who's a New York marathon winner, and Boston, and Lorraine Moller, of course, and who else we got? Susan Devoy, and they are very, very invested in this whole program of getting kids moving. Very cool. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.